So I showed my bow holder on Facebook and said everybody who ground hunted needed one. And a few guys asked how to build one. So I thought I'd just kind of show you a little bit about how this thing is built. And the reason I built this one is because I don't really like the wire ones that are available like at Walmart or some hunting places or farm stores. The wire ones just kind of pinch your limb in one spot. And what I found was that my bow kind of tipped in it back and forth. And this one here just gives me a little bit more support on my limb. And I can just simply lift it in and out, you know. Just a couple things here I can show you. I'll try to provide a drawing with this as well too. But it's two oak dowels, and the top one here you can see I've notched it out so that the limb kind of gets trapped in there, and then I just use some Super 33 electrical tape. I use the Super 33 because it's a little bit gummier and it's got just the slightest amount of tackiness to it. That just helps hold the limb a little more sturdy. But that groove there, that notch, just helps it from flipping out if there was a strong side wind or something. And then down here below on the bottom peg, I've got this filed out so that it grabs the string on the bottom of the limb. Let me show you what I mean here. So when I put this in, that particular, I'm hitting the ceiling here in the basement. So up here, this is resting on the tacky tape, and then down here below, the string is resting in that groove, and so there's really no way, even with a wind, that thing will get blown out of there or anything. So anyhow, let's go back to the construction of this thing here for a second. So this is a 3/4 inch dowel, this is a 3/4 inch dowel, and then in the pivoting part I've got a 1 inch dowel. I think you could probably get by with 3/4 inch here too, but this piece here, these dowels are 6 inches on center. This 1/2 inch plywood piece is 8 inches overall, about 2 1/4 wide, and then in the hole here, just to show you how this thing works, I've just drilled a 1 inch hole. Again, if you're using a 3/4 inch dowel, you'd want to use a 3/4 inch hole in this piece of oak, and this is straight grained. If I recall, this thing's about 22 inches. Yeah, it's about 21.5 inches, and that seems to be about the right height that I want it to be off of the ground by the time I stomp this thing into the ground. And then what I did after I drilled my hole, I just cut a slot in it, and then I put a 1/4 inch carriage bolt through. So I drilled a hole here. I've got a knob, but you could just as easily use a wing nut. And I cut this slot here just so that when you tighten this, it would actually have room to close that hole up and pinch the dowel. And it's a pretty decent fit. Now again, I'm using a knob here. I think you could use a wing nut. In fact, this knob is big enough that it'll actually hit this. I'd probably be better off with a wing nut. But at any rate, this adjustment here lets you change the tilt of your bow so that you can tilt it either more upright or more flat, just depending on how you want the bow to rest. So when I put this thing in the ground, sometimes I'll put it in straight, sometimes I'll put it in at an angle towards me, you know, kind of tilt it away. just depending on where I want my bow to rest in relation to my seat. And then down here on the bottom, just to show you, I just sharpened that like a vampire stake here. So when I shove this into the duff, I just wiggle it back and forth to get it in as deep as I want. And it rests in there pretty good. So there is one feature that I want to show you about this. Maybe my most important benefit of this design is that right there. Made in USA by me.